Hello, welcome back to the Nothing Notable podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Daniel.
And I am Jack.
And today we're going to be reviewing the Golden Globe Best Picture winner, Nomadland, directed, written, and edited by Chloe Zhao, and stars Frances McDormand. It's on Hulu streaming right now, and I thought this movie, in one word, was sweet. I think this is a very sweet film. I just kind of loved just living in it. A lot of van life, a lot of silent filmmaking, which is really nice and something Chloe Zhao does really well. I think it does cold very well, and that juxtaposes with the warmth that Fern feels with the nomads. I've heard this film is kind of like loves looking at pain and stuff and the human psyche or whatever, but I think it's more than that, and overall I just think it's a really sweet film. Yeah. Daniel, why don't you go?
Yeah, I think the word sweet is a good way to describe this movie. I don't know, maybe I was just in an emotional state, but I was kind of welling up for the majority of this movie, even in moments that weren't particularly sad. I think this movie sort of is like a Rorschach test. You get what you give to it. In that way, I found it to be a very emotional movie. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this movie again. I think it's one of those kind of movies where you watch it once, you get everything you need out of it, and then you probably don't return to it for a number of years. It was a very good movie though, and I'm happy that I spent the time watching it. And I don't well up super easily during movies because I've watched so many movies and I'm so cued into the trickery of filmmaking that I'm usually distracted by that. But what's great about this movie is the simplicity of filmmaking. It removes a lot of the artifice of traditional Hollywood films and just asks you to sit, like you said, Tyler, and just kind of live with the characters. And so in that way, it was very refreshing. And it sort of is a documentary with a movie star at the center of it. It is a kind film. And I very much like this movie, and I'm happy for its success because it's not a typical movie by any measure.
Yeah, you talked about how you were welling up during it, and I can relate. It was making me feel some sort of way. I could not describe what the exact emotion I was feeling was, but it was just this cocktail of all the different emotions put together throughout the whole thing. This movie was quietly powerful throughout the whole experience, and the contrast between how beautiful it was at times and then the anchored by the stark reality that it also faced of economic depression and this lifestyle where yes, you got these majestic landscapes, but then also you sometimes got to shit in a bucket, Yeah. It was one of the more interesting films that I've watched in a minute. And I had a good time. I had a good time laying there last night watching it.
Perfect. I just want to say this because we before we record, we don't really talk about what we thought of the film. I think Daniel follows me on Letterboxd, so he might know.
Follow us.
I don't know what that is.
Something. It's a social media website for film lovers, but it's a lot of fun to do this because I think this was the first movie I wasn't sure if we were all going to be on the same page for, especially because some people I follow on Letterboxd are boring, yawn. But I'm really happy we all got I think we all got different things out of the movies, definitely. But it's refreshing that we all do appreciate the artistry in it. And I'll just start the discussion with Chloe Zhao. She just became the first woman of color, second woman to win Best Director at the Golden Globes, which is crazy. Yeah. She's the first woman since Barbra Streisand in 1983, which is pretty insane. And this is her third feature film. She did Songs My Brothers Taught Me in 2015, and then The Rider in 2017. And in The Rider, she did a pretty similar thing that she did in Nomadland, where she takes real people and just puts them in movies, and it's really I think we could start the discussion there. about the real people that were in this movie. I think it takes a really good director to be able to get these performances out of just real people who are like nomadic. And I feel like it's so difficult, and Chloe Zhao does it like, and you don't even notice like Linda May, it's their actual name. So Linda May was just like a really sweet part. And also, fun fact about this film, Linda May was looked at to be actually like the lead. Like we'd follow Linda May instead of Fern. Frances McDormand would only be, because she read Nomadland, the book, and then Chloe Zhao came on, and she's a producer on it. Both of them are. But anyways, Frances didn't want to perform originally, but then they kind of felt like that would be probably the most interesting thing. But yeah, so I guess I'll take it to you guys.
Yeah, it's sort of a trend that's coming back that I'm really happy about, because I feel like in the 60s and the 70s there was a lot of really incredible filmmakers that were doing some of their best work, and some of their best work was including non-professional actors. But it's a trend that's reoccurring, because like the Safdie brothers are doing this, and Chloe Zhao is doing this. A number of the best filmmakers that are working today are doing this, and it's a trend that I'm really happy to see, because it grounds the film in an authenticity that you can't always find with professional actors. I do think that the movie is helped a lot by the anchoring of Frances McDormand at the center of all of it, who is a genuine movie star, and we'll talk about later. But having her navigate this world of all of these real people, I think on some level, if you don't know anything about the movie coming into it, you kind of still feel like these are real people, whether you know it or not. And so in that way, that's another reason why I was sort of welling up the entire time, is because when Swanky is doing her whole like goodbye, it's really, really sad, because Swanky could be, you know, my grandma or my aunt or something like that. She could just be a person in my family that had economic hard times. It could be me in the future.
Your lover.
Yeah. And so when she is saying like she is going to die and she's going to leave now, it's so real and it's so touching that you can't help but really feel connected to her, because she's just another person. Like it's just like watching a documentary. So I think the choice to go, it would also be really controversial if they took this nonfiction book and cast all real actors, like all professional actors. That would be a real shitstorm. But yeah, lastly, to your point, Tyler, about how hard this is to direct, that's the thing that I come away with most, probably, about how Chloe Zhao organized this whole film. Like think about like all the comedy directors that like have to organize like Will Ferrell doing improv during a movie. Like that itself is hard. Now do that with like real human beings with real human emotions. Like that's 10 times harder. You're juggling more balls in the air. You're spinning more plates.
Especially because you don't know if you can get them back for like reshoots or anything.
Yeah, you really,
because they might just be gone.
Yeah, you just got to go for it, and you got to get it there. And it seems like it was a pretty small crew too, which I love. It looks like stuff that we could go out and do if we had a beautiful camera and a movie star like Frances McDormand.
I love the choice to use non-actors in the roles. It makes it feel so authentic to me. And I think it helped having someone at the center that plays authentic so well. It reminded me a lot. I took a course that was Latin American film. And for a lot of the films we watched, the protagonists in it, which were often children, weren't actors. They were just, regular old kids who were honestly kind of living these shitty lives that was just documented by the movie. And I think it just helps everything feel way more authentic than it would if you got just a whole bunch of, random actors to come in and do it.
Yeah, let me jump in on that real quick, because I also took a Latin American film class when I was at San Francisco State, and that's absolutely right. It's this combination of documentary and fiction, and it's especially for Latin American film, like the lives that so many of these people have led are so horrifying and so sad, and it's so marred by like dictatorships and military coups. And so a lot of it's dealing with the trauma of like an entire group of people, and usually, like you said, Jack, through children. And so watching those films, it was sort of a revelation. It's like movies can be like this because there's not a lot of docufiction in America. So that's also why if you're just watching Hollywood films, this will feel quite different because it's very foreign to America, but it's not completely by itself. It has a tradition that it's coming from.
And I didn't take a Latin American film course.
You bum.
So I'm a bum.
You uncultured swine.
Well, let's jump into the lead. Let's talk about Frances McDormand. This is, well, I was going to say this is her third Oscar, but she's maybe, who knows, but she's previously won 2 Oscars for, her performances in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri from 2017, which I absolutely love, and of course Fargo, the original
there we go.
movie. So there's the Fargo count. But yeah, like I was saying before, she didn't originally want to perform in this, but I'm very glad she did. And her and Chloe Zhao seem to have like a really good, I watched an interview with both of them and they seem to have like a really good camaraderie between them. And they like joke around, like Frances McDormand was like, when they said like Chloe Zhao's directing this, I said, who the fuck is Chloe Zhao? but afterwards they've become very close friends, and even so close that Frances McDormand was like shopping or something, and then she like texted or called Chloe Zhao and was like, I found the costume. I found like the perfect costume for Fern. And I think you can really see that in her performance, that she like really cares about this character. And there's a lot of like weird quirks that she has throughout the movie. Like when she's like eating something or like making a weird face to someone, it's just a really good performance. And also like, and she was saying this in the interview too, it's like she is a real person. Like she looks like a real person. It's not like she hasn't had plastic surgery. No disrespect to actors who do, but she doesn't. And it
yeah, everyone knows I've had a facelift. I've had a nose done. My eyes aren't my own.
I know you have really like you would know though.
You can tell it was not a good eye job.
Yeah.
Jack sold out and it went bad.
Look, someone's got to bring in the money around here.
But also overall, just like she was also talking about how Fern is this character that is finally like, again, after the death of her husband, Beau, like she's going out and exploring. And she said she really related to that because that's something she did when she was like 17, leaving her hometown to pursue this like crazy career in acting. And again, it's just such an interesting performance because it is that 17-year-old going out there, but the 17-year-old is in her 60s, and she's still exploring and learning. And I think her relationship with Dave, whatever it is, it was really cute. But yeah, I think I've been talking enough. Jack, what do you think of Frances McDormand in this?
I keep coming back to this word authentic, but it was just truly the best way that I could describe her performance in it. It did not seem like she was acting in it. She seemed like she was also one of these nomad people and was just able to express everything that I think she needed to express in each scene. It was terrific. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, we talked about this, Tyler, when we did the Little Things review. We were talking about how Rami Malek's performance got a lot better in the second half when he was reacting to stuff more, because like good acting is reacting. And that's what it feels like in this movie, because it seems like a lot of the scenes, well, I don't know how scripted the movie is, but it feels like there's a lot of stuff in here where Frances McDormand is just a person reacting to other people doing things, especially in the scenes where like she is just listening to actual people tell their actual stories. It's just her listening to these stories probably for the first or maybe second time. And that's just how an authentic human being would react. It just looks natural. I think Frances McDormand is in a class of her own. She is simultaneously a movie star and the absolute opposite of a movie star. Like she rejects everything that Hollywood is all about. She kind of just does her own thing, and she doesn't really care what anyone thinks about her. She's kind of a total badass, but she still has the magnetism of a movie star. Those feel like they shouldn't pair together, but they do, and they create something that's really compelling in all of her movies, but especially in this one, because I think more so than any of her other movies, this is this is the most her that she's ever been on screen.
It feels like you know her. Like, it feels like you have met this person before in your life. Like, this could be like your teacher, your aunt, just, you know, someone who you go to the same grocery store as. This just feels like someone that you know.
And again, to both of your guys' points, like, I feel like it's just a performance that, like, just has, like, a lot of her in it. And I think we've all performed before, and, like, everything you do has some of you in it, obviously. But, like, to have something this, like, kind of freeing, I would imagine is really interesting. And, like, I don't know, just like obviously she's performing with all these real people, but she's also like that. She really lives in that van, you know, like that van feels like a home, really. And like that whole scene, where she's like the van's like breaking down and stuff, and she can either pay $5,000 to fix it or just get a new van, which she probably should do. But she doesn't want to, because, you know, like, this is her home. She's put so much effort into this. And I don't know, it's a woman and her van, you know?
Yeah. And I think, Jack, earlier you described like the emotions that you were feeling as sort of like this cocktail of different things that were all combining into one thing. One of those ingredients for me was revealed during that scene. When the van breaks down, I'm immediately like, oh my God, yeah, what would she do if her van broke down? Like, that's everything to her. That is your home. That's everything. That's the only way that you can survive like this. And so part of that is also just like the acknowledgement that, like, I can't believe that, like, we live in a world where this is happening.
Yeah, Tyler, I think you earlier said that a lot of people are saying this movie is about, like, pain and stuff and the human experience. And I don't know if I agree with those people. I would say it's more about grief than pain, which grief doesn't necessarily have to be pain. And throughout the movie, I think we see her grieving, not just about, like, the loss of her husband, but the loss of this whole life that she had in that town. What was it called? Empire?
Yeah.
Empire, starring Jesse Smollett. Yeah. Anyway, in Empire.
We're going to be demonetized.
We're going to be demonetized now. But
we're not monetized.
But her grieving and figuring out how to move forward after, you know, she lost her job, she lost her home, the whole town is gone, and she lost her husband after that. And it's a mixture of, like, pain and then searching for what's next too, if that makes sense.
Well, it's like what Bob says also. It's like when he has that scene where he talks about his son who died.
That's my favorite scene.
It's so good. And also,
he is incredible.
He's a real guy, and he has a YouTube channel. I forget what the channel's called, but you can look it up on YouTube. And he does a whole bunch of, like, RV living type stuff. But in that scene, he basically sort of, to your point, Jack, says as much as you just did, is that this movie sort of is about, like, dealing with grief and how do you move forward. And he pretty beautifully explains how to do that. It's a very sweet message that this movie has about grief.
It's heartwarming in a lot of ways. And I mean, that scene where she, like, goes back to Empire at the end is, like, also really powerful. And just I mean, there's a bunch of images that stick with me in this film, but, like, the image of Frances McDormand outside of, like, it's like a silhouette of her, and it's like she's opened the door from her house, and now it's, like, symbolically kind of, like, letting it go and moving on with life. And I mean, again, it's like when filmmakers do stuff that, like, it's kind of like comedy in a way. It's like when you hear a really good joke, you're like, wow, that's so simple, but it's so powerful and good. And in the case of comedy, funny. But yeah, you know, making it look easy is what Chloe Zhao does in this movie. And it's pretty freaking incredible.
Let's talk about the cinematography for a quick second, because this movie basically doesn't use lighting, like, whatsoever. The DP, Joshua James Richards, shout out to him, great job. But he was doing an interview, and he was talking about how Joel Cohen came to set one day because he's married to Frances McDormand, and the day he came, they were doing a shot inside the van, and the only lighting that they had was, like, a little flex panel and, like, this small little LED on a C-stand. And that was pretty much all that they had in that one scene. And he felt so embarrassed because like Joel Cohen is standing right there and he's like, I swear this is a professional movie. But the crew is small and the lighting is very minimal. And that's also part of why this movie feels so natural, is because they aren't adding to the artifice with a bunch of lights and stuff like that. The movie is just full of shots, man. It's full of great, beautiful landscapes, beautiful sunsets. I just watched Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven the other day, which is a very similar film in that it's like all shot at sunset, basically. And it's just gorgeous to see the American landscape in that way. And I was watching it thinking, this guy has to be a pro, right? He has to have been working for like 40 years. He must have done a bunch of movies that I've already seen. And he's like fairly young. He's sort of, this is probably one of his bigger projects. And I don't know, I just wanted to shout him out because I thought that the movie was so beautiful. And if this movie was shot by someone else, it might not be as compelling. It's the visual language is just so strong.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous throughout the whole film. Just wonderful.
The cinematography like makes me want to go on a road trip and just like kind of just like go around and like live in a van or like live in motels or whatever and just like really just like see the world, you know. And like there's so much out there, and kudos to the DP and like Chloe Zhao and everyone involved in creating that feeling, because it's really wonderful.
Yeah, and it shows off like parts of the country that I don't think people ever think to go visit and look at, like out in the middle of nowhere in Nevada, down in the Arizona desert, up through like the whole middle western part of the United States, which is just so much natural beauty to it that we all just kind of forget is there and don't ever think about.
And that big dinosaur.
And the big dinosaur, which was a real dinosaur.
Speaking of Chloe Zhao, we said we'd talk about this, so I think this is a good transition to talk about that. She's directing the next Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Not the next one, but she's directing Eternals, which comes out. It was supposed to come out in 2020, which would have been a crazy year for Chloe Zhao. But it's now coming out in 2021. It stars every good actor who has been in a TV show in the last decade. Like Brian Tyree Henry's in there, Kumail Nanjiani's in there. An eclectic group of people, and like it's definitely an A-list cast. And I mean, this was her first time working with an A-lister with Frances McDormand. But yeah, like let's I guess talk about like how you guys think it's gonna translate, because also Chloe Zhao wanted to direct a Marvel movie. It wasn't Marvel giving her $1 bajillion to do it. She's actually a pretty big fan of the MCU, so she really wanted to direct one. And after that, I'm talking, but after
you're
that,
allowed to talk. This is a podcast.
I know.
The whole point is to talk.
It sounded real quick. It sounded like you were being cut off by someone that wasn't in this chat. Like you're paranoid.
Like, I'm talking.
I'm sorry, I'm talking.
The ghosts in your room.
Anyways, I mean, they ripped down my Parasite poster. So, but after Eternals is done, Eternals is done. It's in post-production, but her next project is working with Universal on a sci-fi space western Dracula movie.
There's a lot going on there.
So there are a lot of things in there. But like Chloe Zhao moving forward, it seems like she's doing stuff she wants to do, and I'm really excited to see how it translates.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Marvel films. I don't watch independent movies, so
I'm so frustrated by this. I'm glad that you're happy, Ty, but I'm so angry about this. She wanted to direct these movies. Every director that directs these movies wants to direct them, obviously, because it's a cash cow, and you get to work with amazing actors. You get to learn something about like CG and action filmmaking and all that. So I can understand why it would be appealing for a director. But I'm so frustrated because now she's going to spend the next few years working on this Dracula movie after just spending a couple years on this Marvel movie. That's not where I want her talents. She should make more Nomadlands. Obviously not Nomadland specifically, but like
Nomadland 2.
Enter the Nomadlands. Yeah, no, but I mean,
Nomadland 3. Return of Dave.
and then Nomadland 4, Robo Swanky.
I love rocks.
No, but I'm so frustrated that independent filmmakers, because this keeps happening, independent filmmakers make one really good independent film that gets some award buzz, and then they immediately go to a Marvel movie or a DC movie or some big franchise. It works sometimes. It works for Ryan Coogler. I think Black Panther is one of the few Marvel movies that I think has a real original stamp on it, even though I don't love the film.
It has 2 really cool shots.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping for, is because I am
2 really cool shots.
I'm hoping for really cool shots. No, I'm hoping for, because I love The Dark Knight. It's the movie that made me fall in love with movies. So I'm not like some asshat that hates superheroes or anything like that. I just think the Marvel situation is pretty hard for filmmakers to shine through. It's such a factory over there. Whereas Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers came together and they're like, let's do this specific trilogy of movies. So I'm hoping that Chloe Zhao can really shine through and make something different. I've been told by her personally, through interviews, she said that like it was a risk for Marvel because she wanted to shoot on location for all of the action scenes as opposed to in studios with green screens. So maybe this movie will be cool, but it's just the principle of it is really frustrating. I'm happy that she is happy and doing stuff that she wants to do, but it's still frustrating. I want independent cinema to be the forefront of all of these great filmmakers. I don't want Jordan Peele to direct the Friday the 13th reboot. You know, I don't want Chloe Zhao.
Wait, is he?
No, he's not. But
Okay.
but just as an example,
I was about to say
Not
that.
yet.
I don't
right.
want the Safdie brothers doing a Star Wars movie. Although that would be something to see.
Oh my god! If they did like a fucking no, honestly, I think if they did like a bounty hunter movie, it'd be pretty fucking sick.
All of these movies could be really cool.
In the underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these movies could be really cool,
But,
but
like-
just in principle, it just frustrates me a little bit.
Yeah, and you gave a perfect example with Ryan Coogler and Black Panther. Like there's like 4 really incredible things in that movie for like a decent Marvel movie. Like it's fine, and like I think definitely out of everyone here and also in my house, I think I'm like the biggest Marvel guy, because like while like I enjoy them, I do agree with like Scorsese. They are amusement parks, and I loved Disneyland for a good amount of my life, you know. And I mean the fact that Chloe Zhao like has like, I mean she has a screenplay credit on Eternals too, so I'm on Eternals also, I should say.
Is that what the sequel's called? Is Eternals also?
Yeah, it's
Robo Swanky.
Robo Swanky, yeah. Eternals also Robo Swanky. Yeah, there we go. Because Swanky's actually, she's casted in Eternals. I'm looking at the IMDb page right now.
Real quick, let me hop in on that, because I think I just pinpointed something that is the reason that I'm kind of frustrated by all of it, is because
of course
Nomadland has something to say about, it sounds cheesy, but like the human condition, it has something to say about people, it has something to say about society. I wish it had more to say about Amazon, because it kind of skirts that issue, but like that's for another part of the pod.
It's a brief moment.
But she has things that she wants to say. Maybe Eternals will also, but for the most part, these Marvel movies are extremely populist, non-thoughtful films that don't ask very big themes. They ask very simple themes. And I know a lot of them are for children, so simple themes are good and easily digestible for children. And I'm not trying to shit on, adult Marvel fans.
Children.
Either, but, yeah. Robo Swanky.
Look, the children who I've talked to love complex themes about,
absolutely,
the human condition. And
but what I mean is, like in Age of Ultron, when they lift a city and drop a city in a foreign country, like things like that are just, it becomes disgusting. Like the way that just in general action films depict especially foreign countries, and especially violence and weapons and everything. Just there's stuff that they are saying by not saying anything, by just going along with the flow, that frustrates me. So I don't want to see Chloe Zhao, who has something to say, just slip into the system and basically reappropriate these issues that I don't want to see in films.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I love Kumail.
Say, who does not?
He is sexy
who does not
now, and always was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the reason why I've never gotten anything out of the Marvel films is because I know what's gonna happen. Basically, like before I even see it, I know what's going on. They're gonna blow everything up, and then they're gonna be fine in the end. But the city's gonna be destroyed and magically gonna be back together then in the next one. They've just never been for me. I don't get anything out of them, but that's fine.
Just on the Eternals, one more thing about that. Apparently,
is that the third one? Eternals. One more thing about
Eternals,
that.
One more thing about that. It's the return of Dave. It's like a whole Zhao cinematic universe. It's actually going to be the ZCU.
Get Dracula in there.
Yeah,
Dracula's going to be in there.
And the
couple
Ryan.
cowboys.
Played by Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah.
Whoa. But apparently the Eternals takes place over like a bajillion years. Like the whole story will take place over like 1,000 years, I think is what they were saying. But like, it just seems like a really weird movie. And like, typically when people are like, oh, this is going to be a really weird Marvel movie, it's not that weird. Like, like I've been watching WandaVision, and like, we won't review it on this channel, but like just my quick review of it. It's like, it's what you guys been saying. It's like it introduces like where could this go? Like this could be kind of Lynchian, and then they immediately answer it in the next episode, like very apparently for like all the children out there to get it. And again, it doesn't get weird enough, but I'm hoping Chloe Zhao does something really interesting with it. And like, while I don't think most Marvel directors do have like a say in most of it, like I do think like someone like James Gunn has done a really good job of making his movies unique and more interesting than the rest. So I'm excited to see what Chloe Zhao does with it. Moving to our last section of discussion, I'll say. Let's talk about like kind of awards. This movie has gotten a lot of awards buzz. Chloe Zhao is making history. I think she was the first woman to win Best Director at Palm Springs, which is a pretty big festival. She just won the Golden Globe for Best Director. She was nominated for Screenplay also, and Nomadland won Best Picture at Best Drama. Yeah. I should say, because the Golden Globes has that weird like drama category, and then they have like comedy or musical.
The Golden Globes is full of goons. It's the worst organization.
And, like, whenever like Borat is a movie, it always wins a bunch of Golden Globes randomly. They love Sacha Baron Cohen and Borat. But anyways, like I mean, I feel like we've all fallen out of love with awards in general, but I think they are important to talk about, and just to see how like. I feel like the Academy has been doing a good job. I don't know. I feel like last year when Bong Joon-ho won everything, that was the coolest thing ever. And check out our Bong Joon-ho series that's coming out slowly but surely. But yeah, let's talk about kind of just like the awards buzz behind this film, because like this is I would say this and like Minari are the two big buzz awards, and like I do think Chloe Zhao she will get nominated for sure for Best Director, and I think she has a great chance of winning simply because like there's not a lot of other great directors in general. No, there's not a lot of like other like great like I think better directed films out in the last year, especially with the pandemic. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
They're all rigged.
They're all rigged.
Yeah, probably.
All I mean, they're all like super sleazy, and there's a lot of behind the scenes mumbo jumbo that goes on with them. It's really more marketing than anything else. They're kind of all, kind of BS. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on the awards this year.
But I do. I still am obsessed. I'm still obsessed with the Oscars and award shows, and not so much the Golden Globes, because I think the Golden Globes is garbage. But the rest of the award shows, and the Grammys are also a little garbage. But I'm really
didn't music get nominated
at the Golden Globes? Yes.
At the Golden Globes,
yeah.
Ooh.
Kate Hudson got nominated. Yeah, and yeah.
Was it nominated in the musical category? Like, it had to be, because it was a musical.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Also, Hamilton was nominated.
They're so
I feel
weird.
like that's not a movie.
The Golden Globes are such a mess. There was a big hit piece that was just released last week about the Golden Globes and how they select their nominees, and it's really pretty damning. It's been an open secret for a long time, but like
Also, Minari is like an American film.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally by A24. It's stupid that it won foreign language. I mean, I still need to see it. I'm sure it's great, but whatever.
Yeah, but so I still do. I'm still interested in the award show. I love the razzle dazzle of it all. I also love what it can do for certain movies. Who watched Moonlight before it won Best Picture? Like, not as many people as after it won Best Picture. So in that way, it can actually like shine a pretty solid light on a lot of movies, a lot of great performances. But it is, it's backroom sleazy stuff. It's fugazi, it's fairy dust, like Matthew McConaughey says.
It's Green Book.
It's Green Book. But this movie has a shot to win a big three. It could win Best Director. I think Chloe Zhao has a lot of heat right now, and could easily win Best Director. I think then in terms of Best Actress, I think Frances McDormand gave the best performance of any of the actresses that are going to be nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars. So I think she has a really good shot. Best Picture, I think it's probably going to be this movie. But this is where my big hot take is.
Here it comes.
I'm worried that a lot of the movies are going to pull votes from each other because it was such a weird year. I'm very, very worried that Trial of the Chicago 7 is going to be the Green Book this year. I'm really scared. I think a lot of people are going to vote for it, like for its second. And I think a lot of votes are going to be tallied for Trial of the Chicago 7. I think like Minari and this film as well are probably going to pull a lot of votes. Mank will probably pull a few votes here. I think there's a lot of splitting of votes that's going to occur. And if Trial of the Chicago 7 ends up winning, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something very dramatic and very violent.
You're going to release a 12-hour pod all
will.
about the Trial of the Chicago 7.
I'm going to get really angry.
I'll say this on this podcast right now. The Trial of the Chicago 7 will win screenplay. Like 100%.
That really frustrates me.
They love Sorkin.
That makes me so mad. But yeah. So that was a small tangent, but
I'm paying my respects.
But I think that this movie has really good Oscar chances. I think that it's great that it got put on Hulu recently so that a lot of people can watch it. If you look back in the history of Best Picture winners, you won't see a lot of Nomadlands. But in the future, you will. All 5 of them.
All 5 of them.
Coming this next summer and the summer after that, it's basically the new Avatar. Zhao and Cameron have combined forces.
Swanky is going to win so many Oscars.
Hell yeah. And she's going to be blue in one of the movies, too. Not just sad. But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I think we should start doing this more, but I would definitely recommend Nomadland.
I do recommend this movie.
I do recommend it too. I think if you're watching reviews of a movie before you watch it, you're weird, but I would recommend watching it.
Hell yeah. I've been Tyler.
I've been Daniel.
And I am still Jack.
And this has been a Nothing Notable podcast. We got great shows coming out soon. Thanks, like, subscribe, all that good jazz, and we'll see you next time.